Hello, this is Jason Cable, Director of Athletics at Alabama State University, and I believe leadership is the ability to inspire people to become a better version of themselves. I was able to learn this during my time at the Charles Wilcom Leadership Institute, where I was able to engage with professionals in the industry and with a cohort group that helped me develop my leadership philosophy, learning from that group and also from the programming that the Leadership Institute provided. I'm forever indebted for that process and for that training. I encourage anyone who have an interest in becoming a better person, a better leader, to explore the Charles Wilcom Leadership Institute opportunity. Enjoy the episode.
Greetings, this is Ty Brown, and welcome to the One Question Leadership Podcast, where we highlight executive and organizational leadership. Be sure to follow us on Twitter and Instagram at 1Q Leadership. Our guest today is Sharief Hashim. Sharief is the Director of Athletics at Susquehanna University.
Yes,
Greetings,
sir.
Sharief. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Ty. I really appreciate it. Happy to sit down with you.
Now, Sharief, your background, you've been in college athletics for roughly 10 years,
Yes, sir.
but been an athletics director for roughly 8, almost 9 of those 10 years, which is crazy, right?
Yeah. Blessed.
Yeah, right. So tell me what you were doing before you got into college athletics.
Sure. No, I appreciate the question. So I'm from Maryland. I say Maryland. Most people assume Baltimore, but Silver Spring, Maryland, much closer to DC. Born and raised in the DMV. Was a high school basketball coach at 21 years old, coached JV. And that's really when I fell in love with working with young people in general, mentoring, youth development programming for the most part. So my background is Montgomery County Public Schools, Montgomery County government. I was a recreation specialist for the Montgomery County government for about 7 years. Prior to that, I was a special education paraeducator at Montgomery County Public Schools for about 7 years. So those entire 14 years, I was a high school basketball coach. I was a JV coach, then an assistant varsity, and then a varsity head coach at my alma mater, Wheaton High School, also in Silver Spring, Maryland. Coached some young men who, are today with children and houses and MBAs and a couple law degrees. And during that time, I actually coached Josh Hart, New York Knicks Josh, for 1 year. His freshman year, he played varsity for me, and he transferred to private school after that. And like most kids in a DMV, you gotta go Catholic League to kind of get to that next level. But yeah, just coached, and a young man who I had coached at Walt Whitman High School in Bethesda, we sit down at the Final Four in Houston in 2011, and I told him, if you ever have an opportunity to be a college coach, give your boy a call. So Dan Engelstad, he's now the head basketball coach at Mount St. Mary's, D1 Mount St. Mary's. He brings me to Vermont to be one of his assistants. So first time ever living outside of DMV, I moved to Bennington, Vermont, small town USA, and was assistant basketball coach and admissions counselor. So that admissions path really helped me accelerate the learning curve and understanding higher ed. And California was my recruiting territory. That was great. I recruited nursing and rad tech students, as well as college athletes, basketball, volleyball, a little bit of soccer. And long story short, my third year, I became the interim athletic director at Southern Vermont College. 9 months later, they removed the interim tag. And then, so 2 years there as an AD, 2 years at SUNY Potsdam as an AD in the SUNY system. And as we all know, the pandemic hit in March 2020. And I started really kind of considering getting back home closer to Maryland. I've got an 11-year-old daughter, so, friends and family. And so, fortunately, Susquehanna was open, and I interviewed, applied, 2 Zooms online. And the first time I visited campus, I rode in with my U-Haul truck. And so that's about 3.5 years now I've been an AD at Susquehanna.
Yeah, so 21 coaching high school. Were you still in school?
I was a student at Howard University. Yep.
Okay, yeah.
I was still in school.
Right.
Yeah,
and then when you had your college job, you were assistant coach.
Yep.
And then they made you interim athletics director.
Yes, sir. Yes,
Tell me
sir.
about that.
Oh man, so thank you. I'm getting chills just thinking about the process. I'm really blessed, you know. Right place, right time, relationship. So I'm coaching Dan. He's a junior in high school, and I was assistant on his varsity team.
Okay.
We had a phenomenal year. We went 18-5, and our birthdays are a week apart, and we just had a good relationship. Fast forward 12 years later, he asked me to be to be an assistant, and you know I think I was about 36 at the time, and I think this was 2013, and I knew, you know, this may not happen again where someone just calls you and say, I need a coach and I want you to be an NCAA assistant. So I ended up taking a $30,000 pay, $34,000
To
pay
do what
cut.
you love, right?
To do what I love, to take that next step, to try to be a college coach. I gave myself a 5-year plan to be a head coach. By my second year there, which would have been the summer of 2015, I had attained my master's. Summer of 2016, I had attained my master's degree, and I was looking at returning. I was actually interviewing for college jobs, and I was a finalist at Newberry College in Brookline, Massachusetts, which is now closed. But they hired a guy named Dana Barros instead of me. Dana played at Boston College and then played in the NBA for a while, so they made an excellent hire there. But and then a couple months later, October 2016, I was brought back to campus, and by that time, I had really developed a close relationship with the VP for admissions. I was more or less the number 2 in admissions. I was doing some diversity initiatives type programming on campus. I just had a presence on campus, and I think they felt comfortable with asking me to step in as an interim AD. They told me interim AD for 2 years, and then we're going to post it, and we'll go from there. And I understood that this was a blessing, and that it was an opportunity for me that I couldn't say no to. And they asked me, "Do you have any questions or anything that you?" I said, "Well, I'm a little concerned about the salary. What are your thoughts there?" And we're going to give you a $2,000 pay increase to, and I say, okay, well, I haven't done a market value analysis, but I'm pretty sure $2,000 doesn't really equate to what the responsibilities entail for the job.
From assistant coach, you're going to give me $2 more.
Exactly. But I had just gotten a raise. I had just moved from 33K to 47K.
Okay.
And so I think they were thinking that, well, he's going to be content with that. We'll give him another 2. And he'll be. So they told me, end of fiscal year, we'll take care of you, and they did, and they actually removed the interim tag 9 months later. So
really? Right off the bat, not even. Yeah,
it was. October 2016, and by June 2017, the interim tag had been removed. You know, they lost a little bit of leverage in the salary negotiation because they removed the tag before. So I got, you know, it was for that region, Vermont.
Yeah, it was pretty good.
You know, it was, you know, it wasn't, you know, we're playing schools in our conference that are in Boston. And so it was a much different pay scale in Boston versus Bennington, Vermont.
So what was your role when you were in that recreation role before you took that assistant?
Sure. Before I moved to higher ed, I was a recreation. That's a great question, Ty. I appreciate that. I was a recreation specialist. A buddy of mine, Matt Miller, he's a D1 assistant coach at Loyola, Maryland. Matt used to call me the mayor of Silver Spring, Maryland. My job was to bring a recreation center to the high school. So the high school, 2 middle schools, and 2 elementary schools, all in the same cluster. I probably had about 40 people on payroll, teachers, administrators, law enforcement, college students, high school students, all part-time. We'd come in with ping pong tables, board games. We did academic support, salsa classes, cooking classes, some literacy programming. And it was a Wheaton High School, so it's my alma mater, and I'm coaching basketball at the high school. I had a dream job, coaching basketball at my alma mater. I'm not a teacher in the classroom, but the administration treated me like an administrator because we're doing all this good work for the community and for the student body. And it was, at the time, it was roughly about 65% Latin, mostly Salvadoran kids, first and second generation. So really heavy MS-13 population. So I did a lot of gang involvement, type of programming, and really trying to keep a lot of futsal. We did some midnight soccer leagues, like doing a lot to keep kids out off the street.
Yeah, 100%.
And so it was a really, but from that, I learned sport management because we're doing all these sport programs. I learned how to, hire and mediate and mentor young staff, and I really enjoyed that. So fast forward a few years later, I'm in Vermont. They said, we want you to be the interim athletic director. My second day, I said, I'm not coaching again. I think I like this. And I'm like, I've done this before on a smaller scale in recreation. I just got to understand NCAA, verbiage, rules, but a lot of it's the same work. It's people, working with people, leading, trying to set the tone, treating people the way that, they prefer to be treated. And so that's something I've always tried to do.
So what's interesting is, when you're coaching, you kind of believe that that's the passion. This is where I belong.
Yes, sir.
So then you get in this AD chair and realize, oh, this might be what I need.
Right.
Tell me about that realization, and then, saying, okay, well, this is the direction I'm going from this point forward.
Sure. When I was a coach, I really, in high school, a little bit of college in Vermont, but I always, prior to moving to recreation, I always thought like I'm really good with leading young people. I really enjoy that, but I've never really led adults. And so that was a personal challenge for me, that was something that I wanted to do. I did it on the recreation level. And then when I moved into higher ed and the AD role, I began doing it there. And I think I had been an interim AD at the time for about 8 months. My niece was 8 years old at the time. And she said, how are your players doing, Uncle? How are your guys doing? I said, oh, I don't coach anymore. She's like, what? What do you do? I said, well, I'm an athletic director. She's like, well, what does that mean? I said, well, I put out fires. And she gave me this quizzical look. Wait. I said, no, I'm not a fireman. I'm not. It's like, so I explained that. Administration, hiring, mediation, manage the budget. And she said, oh, you coaches. And she just walked off.
Oh, she just got what it was and walked off.
Just walked, she done. She got 8 years old. And so that's when I realized that it made so much sense when she said that. And understanding that while that sounds cool, they coach me. Yeah. And, I really, I would define my leadership style at the time when I first started as a servant leader.
Okay.
I really would do anything that I could for my coaches at any time. We had 13 athletic programs, 11 coaches, and head coaches. And so it was a much smaller school, roughly about 180 student athletes. And so I found that as I've continued to grow and develop, move from school to school, currently Susquehanna, 23 programs, 670 student athletes, 27 full-time staff, total of 70 employees, including part-time staff. And so I'm probably more of a transformational leader where I'm just not able to drop what I'm doing to help, people when they ask at that time. But I do have to stay who I am. I have to continue to remind myself what got me here, and that is servant leadership. And so I'd like to think that I'm a little bit of both.
But I mean, servant leadership doesn't have to mean that I will help you sweep the grounds, right? It could also mean I will provide the resources so that you can sweep the grounds more efficiently. For sure. Like that, right? Still serving you because that's how I can serve you. Right. Is by providing.
And that's what we're all doing is serving, young people. But I love advocating for young people. I love advocating for coaches. People always ask, do you miss coaching? Right? And while there's certain components of coaching I miss, recruiting, parts of recruiting, that finding that diamond in the rough, student athlete, or seeing a young person be successful who might have been struggling with the left-hand layup or struggling in the classroom, and not being on the front lines with the students, so to speak. But what I found that when I'm able to advocate for an assistant strength and conditioning coach, or I'm able to frame things in a way that faculty or the administration understand. And that's like hitting a 3-pointer for me, or like scoring a basket, or we push to get this done, get this accomplished, and they say yes, and I know that would have happened if I wasn't able to articulate to them in a way that they could understand. So you're right, it is service, it is servant leadership, and I really enjoy it. But just trying to bring that attitude and that passion to what we do, I think is a transformational part of it. But I try to be a little bit of both.
Yeah, 100%.
And but I will say that mid-October I said I need to put the baskets, the chairs away after the basketball game. Okay. I need to remind myself of not get too far ahead of myself, because I feel like I was doing that a little bit.
Oh, really?
And just taking on more, delegating a little bit more. And I'm like, you know what, I want to really, not so that people see you doing things, but just so I feel good about.
Is that the thing you identified? Put the chairs away after the basket, like the thing, like there's got to be one thing I'm gonna do to
it's
keep me grounded.
It's an easy thing for me to do. I'm gonna say that it's the game finishes, and it's
I can do that.
We the bleachers, do a little bit of that, but
I think that's excellent.
Yeah, it's just something light that I enjoy. Get a quick workout in doing that, but just trying to find different things and be more because when I was in Vermont and I took over, I didn't have an admin. I didn't have an associate AD, so it was just me. So I did all those things. So it was just, and I was a little younger. Yeah. So I'm just, 14-hour days, like it's nothing. Yeah. And so I've kind of gotten away from that a little bit, and I enjoy it. And just trying to stay humble and remember who I am and what, like I said, what got me here.
Is there an aspect of leadership that you still struggle with, maybe? Like whatever early on, and you feel like this is still a thing? I mean, maybe you've hired somebody to handle that part of it, or
right, that I still struggle with.
Or was there an aspect of leadership that you struggled with early on?
I feel like I'm really balanced in my demeanor and my attitude. I think that hurts me sometimes. I appear to be very laid back. I smile a lot.
Okay.
So sometimes people don't understand that I got that dog at me.
Yeah.
Like I can be very stern and very fierce at times, and it might people are surprised by that sometimes. But I think there's a time and a place for everything.
Yeah.
So I think that's something that I'm a nice person. I enjoy winning.
Yeah.
I enjoy having fun. I want people to feel good about what they're doing. And I think sometimes people look at that as
take kindness for weakness.
Probably. Yeah, exactly. And then they're like, oh, and then sometimes you deal with the angry black man trope and different things like that. So just balancing those things, and I've only worked at PWIs, and they've been rural areas, and I think that there's a lot of power in that. There's a lot of power in being the only black person in the room sometimes, and so understand that there's a responsibility with that to represent well. So I've just tried to do that and consistently, and at the same time, I have to be who I am. And so I'm going to smile. I'm going to maintain a good attitude. I think to answer your question a little bit better, I think I've grown a lot as a leader who understands business in terms of managing the budget, being forward thinking, making the right decisions. But I don't think anybody saw the transportation increases we were going to see in our industry post-COVID.
Yep.
And so working through that, for instance, we've increased our athletic enrollment by 22% since fall 2019. So making sure that, one thing that I'm really, really working with our administration to understand is that while we saw a small decrease in student athlete enrollment, we did see a significant increase in student athlete enrollment.
Okay.
And so all our coaches see that, they all understand that, and they want more. And we have more students, so that's travel costs and, hotels and uniform, everything, but we have to move deliberately to kind of make sure that we don't put ourselves in a position to be over budget. And so I've been, I've learned a lot about that, and through this time post-COVID where we've all been enduring different things in our industry.
You talk about the relationship with the people who you report to, right? And is it a student affairs deal where you are, or is it a president? Like, tell me about how it's set up where you are.
Sure. When I was first hired, I reported to VP for Student Life.
Okay.
Currently, I report to the provost. There has been some time when between jobs where I reported directly to the president. But he's our president, Dr. Jonathan Green. He's very hands-on with athletics. I have direct access to him. So while I do report to the provost, I have access to the president, but I also, I work well with anybody. So it's been good for me to be able to have different leaders in our campus community to report to and ask questions and gain ideas from, and really just try to be an asset as much as possible. Partner with our DEIB department to do some different things on our campus. But I just, going back to my background in recreation, youth development work, I really enjoy touching other parts of campus. I've worked in admissions, so making sure we maintain a positive relationship with admissions, and of course advancement, work closely with advancement and do some different things. Well, actually, when we leave Phoenix, our associate AD, Stephanie Johnson, and I, she's out here too, we're going to fly back into Philly, and our men's basketball team is playing at the Palestra on Sunday at the 14th at 5. Palestra is like the cathedral of Philly college basketball. So it's really exciting for us to play there. We've got a meet and greet with alumni at 2:30 p.m. and then we play at 5 p.m. And it's I really love connecting with alumni,
like
and not, it's not all about cultivating and stewarding relationships to gain donations, but it's just really that community piece and building relationships. It's a great fun part of the job.
Which is excellent. Ask a couple questions here and then we'll wrap.
Sure.
Purpose of an athletics department is to enhance the academic mission of the university. Tell me about that, how you tie into that. I mean, obviously student athletes going to classes and that kind of thing, but tell me about how you, with intent, tie into enhancing the academic mission of the university.
I appreciate that. Well, I think a big part of it is marketing and branding what we do.
Okay.
People don't always understand what we do. Could be within the campus community, could be outside the campus community. A lot of times they just assume that these coaches are glorified PE teachers and they just rolling the balls out and that kind of thing. They don't understand that this is a job no different than the D1 level, right? Our kids get up at 6 a.m. for strength conditioning. They got the same sleep issues that some of the D1 athletes have also that we're trying to harness. And of course the same mental health issues, but and trying to brand what we do, I've really tried to get people in our campus community to understand that we are 34% of the student body.
Which is significant.
And that our students, I've really marketed that our women student athletes are the campus's highest achieving student. And so really to get people to celebrate these things. And I think, we've always been around 25%, but we've peaked post-COVID. I think that people didn't really grasp how integral, they knew we had sports. Our football program, the D3 national championship is called the Stag Bowl. Alonzo Stagg coached at Susquehanna twice. He was a head coach and then left and then came back and was assisted his son. And so college football in Susquehanna's community is huge. So they've always understood that athletics is important to the university, but really just marketing how important we are, how successful our students are academically, the conference awards that we receive to be for academic recognition, marketing those things. So really just going out of my way to connect, build relationships with the faculty. When I was at SUNY Potsdam, our coaches taught, so they were faculty.
Right.
So I was a faculty person. So I've always enjoyed, some ADs don't go to faculty meetings. I enjoy sitting in a room and having discussions. And I'll tell you this, I hang out with faculty. I don't necessarily hang out with our staff. And who wants to be around their boss when they're letting their hair down, so to speak. So I built a lot of relationships with the faculty department. Shout out Susquehanna Creative Writing. Those are my people, and just really try to again market what we do, get people to and then in turn try to get them to come to our games so that the faculty, everywhere I've been, you've got someone who's been there 20, 30 years and never been to a game. Come see your student athletes in this space, and you might see a different young person.
Yeah.
And so I just kind of enjoy having those conversations.
Yeah, which is excellent. That's his last question, and we'll wrap. You're in a room, and you probably actually have done this, full of people who aspire to be a leader, either in college athletics, in the corporate world, and then to lead an organization, or the room is full of people who are currently athletic directors or leaders of organizations, CEOs, whatever. And you want to give them 1 or 2 points that you think will help them on their path to become successful and effective leaders of organizations, corporations, athletic departments, whatever. What do you think the imperative 2 points would be if you were talking to this room?
Okay, what's worked for me and what I try to share with people, especially young administrators, be empathetic.
Okay.
Obviously, trying to put yourself in people's shoes, understand what they're going through. If you do that, sometimes you know when to not push a button, when to kind of give them their space. I think that's worked well for me. Being emotionally intelligent is very important. That goes along with empathy. Know your leadership style.
Okay.
Being able to define your leadership style is important. Understanding who you are as a leader, what's important to you, maintain, be who you are, but knowing your leadership style. And lastly, Bennington, Vermont, Potsdam, New York, which is basically Canada, and now Central PA, very rural, 20 minutes from Bucknell, but still somewhat rural. So, for a lot of times for women and ethnic minorities, go places where, you can, don't be afraid to go places where you can get outside of your comfort zone. Don't wait till your late 30s to move to, someplace where, can help you develop getting outside your comfort zone. And a lot of times, they may be looking for diversity. They may be looking for women. They may be looking for, something different. And I think sometimes we want to work in DC, we want to work in LA, we want to work in Miami, we want to hit these specific pockets. And the opportunity may not be there, but you might have to go somewhere first, and you might be surprised how much you develop as a professional in these spaces.
Right.
It's worked for me, so I try to lead people with that, to really get outside their comfort zone.
Which is excellent. So be empathetic.
Yep.
Understand who you are as a leader and your leadership style.
Yes, sir.
And get outside your comfort zone.
There it is.
Yep. Where you work. Well, that's excellent. I think this has been a great conversation. I really appreciate you joining us here on the One Question Leadership Podcast.
Thank you so much, Ty. It's been a long time, and I'm glad I finally got the opportunity to sit down with you, man. Thank you so much. I really 100%. Appreciate it.
That was Sharief Hashim.
Yep.
Sharief is the Director of Athletics at Susquehanna University.
Yes, sir.
And of course, I am Ty Brown with One Question. And keep in mind, the role of a leader is to create and maintain an environment that people want to be a part of. And as always, be better tomorrow than you are today. This episode of the One Question Leadership Podcast is produced by Spades Media Group, solving problems using creative leadership.